So this physical body is a product of previous karma, uh, and that is also this particular karma that we do in this birth is also going to be experienced by us when we have another body in the next birth. And when we say this body is a product of the past action, because this body must have a karanam, a reason. And the karanam for this body, the cause for this body, particular body, especially human body, because it is a result of the previous action. If the actions, this body is born out of without any reason, then this body, which is considered to be an effect without a cause, that is called krita abhyagamaha, effect without a cause. Also, the future action must have a result for the same person who does the action today. Otherwise, why should he do? Otherwise, it becomes krita vipranashaha. Kritasya vipranashaha. What is done becomes futile. And all of us know, especially in Vedic religious rituals, they do punya karma, saying that this very person who is doing the karma, the karta alone, is going to experience the merits of the action in the next birth or in Swarga Ityadi, Swargadi Lokeshu. Otherwise, it becomes Krita Pranashaha, Krita Vipranashaha. Now, having said that the temporary nature of this physical body, now we saw Deha Bhyantaraha Pranaha. Abhyantara Pranaha. What is the nature of this prana? Pranamaya Kosha. So that is said in the verse number 5. Purno dehe balam yachat. Chan actually. Akshanam yapravartakaha. Vayu pranamayo nasau. Atma chaitanya darshanat. Anya chaitanya varjanat. Purno dehe balam yachan akshanam yapravartakaha vayu pranamayo nasau atma chaitanya varjanat. The pranamaya kosha is that which is essentially yaha purno dehe balam yachan, providing what? Purno dehe, complete body, balam. The physical body gets strengthened by the pranamaya portion. That's why when the oxygen, for example, is absent or oxygen is less, physical body is incapable of functioning as effectively as it was otherwise. As even we see in the dying person, while that person's prana is weakened, is unable to see properly, hear properly, smell, taste or touch, get up, walk, breathe. Everything goes to become very, very weak. Why? That prana, which is giver of strength, is slowly has stopped its function. Akshanam ya pravartakaha. Also, this prana is the one which is able to give the activity, the ability to act for all the senses, akshanam, meaning eyes, etc., all the karmendriyas, all the jnanendriyas are given enough energy to function by the pranas. Vayuhu pranamayaha. This is called Vayu. Yo Vayuhu dehe purnaha padadi mastaka paryantam vyaptaha san. From head to toe, it is completely occupying the entire body. Balam yachan, giving the strength. Vyana rupena samartyam prayachan, by spreading itself completely entire body, it is samartyam, the ability, the skill. Akshanam chakshuradinam indriyanam pravartakaha, prerakaha, it's one which is instigating all the sense organs to action. Savayuhu pranamayaha ityuchyate. That very vayu, air sheath or pranamaya kosha. Aso api atma na bhavati. This also cannot become atman. Why? Tatra hetumaha. The reason is chaitanya, meaning vivada adhyasita prana atma na bhavati jadatvat gadadivat iti bhavaha. The prana is also not by itself is having its own chaitanya. It is not having its own life. It's only borrowed life. Also, practically we know that a person willingly can stop the breath also. Antarkumbhakam. I don't want to breathe. It's like when you are getting into the water and you want to breathe, take a deep breath, jump into the water. You cannot stay there forever, obviously. So breathing in is where the Vayu prana comes in, and then breathe out. So you can breathe out. So it is of the nature of coming and going. Agama paino anityaha. What is coming and going is anitya by nature. But Atma nitya rupatvat, Atman by nature is nityam. Therefore, prana na Atma. The self is not, the prana is not the self. That is one reason. Second is pravartakaha iti. This is also mentioned here. Iti suchitam atra. So here it is also said that it is pravartakaha, meaning karta. Atmana karta. Pranaha karta. Tasmata abhi kartrutva bhave atmana pranasya kartrutva bhave abhi atma tad na bhavati. It cannot be Atman because it is engaging in a particular activity. That is second one. Third one is that it can be known. Manasa jnatum shakyate. Prana astiva na astiva iti manasa jnatum shakyate tasmat abhi atma na atma bhavati. Why it is not? Because atma kinchit vishayi na bhavati. Manasaha vishayi na bhavati. It is not an object of the mind, but prana is. So these are all the reasons why prana is not Atman. So that is very clear here. But prana, even though it activates the senses and makes all the sense perceptions possible, but sense perceptions, when are done by the eyes, ears, etc., eyes are seeing, but eyes are not seeing for itself. Nose is smelling, but nose is not smelling for itself. Sometimes you will also know, see, let us say you are passing by a fish market. First of all, I wonder how people even stand there in that fish market, selling the fish. Because for a person who's selling the fish, it's get used to it, that smell. But when I was growing up, we had a market in which they, regular, that is vegetable market. Those times I remember the vegetables when they are spread out on, sorry, when they are put on, it's such a beautiful smell, you know. The fragrance is so much as flower or vegetables. But very unfortunate thing is the very entrance of that the market, there is a fish market. I hate going that side. So what we do, there is one entrance, there is another entrance other side. It may take almost a mile or so to go around and come that side. But I prefer not to go through this. I go around and come from the other side. And come out also on from the other side. Because once you get through this market which has a fish and before you go to the vegetable, you will lose all the interest to buy the vegetables also. This, yeah. So, but let us say, unfortunately, we do not have the time or to go all around and come. So, let us go through this only. We're closing the eyes, we cross that area. And then, once we know that we have entered the vegetable market, we open the nose. Now, after opening the nose, also the smell will come. You might have noticed that. The smell doesn't go away. So what happens is, the nose is capturing the smell, but not recognized by the mind until you allow it. You release the nose, then mind captures. What that is to say, nose is no doubt taking the information of the smell, but the smell is known only when the mind is there. Vina manaha, without the mind, you will not know the smell or taste. None of those things. So now, therefore, Manomaya is the Karta. Let's see. Ahantam mamatam dehe gehadau chakaroti yaha kamadyavastaya branto nasavatma manomaya ahantam mamatam dehe gehadau chakaroti yaha kamadyavastaya branto nasavatma manomaya. Yah dehe ahantam dehe gehadau cha ahantam mamatam karoti. Yak karoti, that which does what? Dehe in the body, gehe grihe in the house, etc. Dehadau ahantam mamatam karoti. I and mine. That which has the nature of identifying with a body, house, people, relationships, car, computer, phone, name, form, all that where it says my I, mine, this is mine, this is what I am. And kamadi avastayaha brantah. And also in the state like desire, etc., it gets completely deluded. That one which is deluded means what? Branta, literal meaning is delusion. But here it should be understood not just delusion, it is incapable and becoming disturbed, imbalanced. And that manomaya na asau atma. That manomaya is also not atman. Why? Because the very fact that it is karta. Kartrutva bhava is there. Also, it is subject to delusion, subject to kind of instability, imbalanced, unstable, or it is subject to change. Deha ahanta ahambhavam grihadau mamatam madiyatva abhimanam cha yah karodi aso manomayah iti sa atma nabhavati. That cannot be considered as Atman. Kutaha ityataha aha hetu garbham visheshanam. What is that? Kama krodadi vritti matvena aniyata swabhavatvat. Aniyata swabhavatvat. Unpredictable behavior. Not niyata swabhava. Niyata means that is known or some a predictable behavior. But mind is an unpredictable behavior. We ourselves have said no to people. Don't say that I will get angry. You don't know, I will very get angry and I do not know what I will do when I get angry. You don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What do you mean by that? You don't know. So can you say my hand, sometimes it only hits me also. How? How can it hit you without your permission? I don't know, Swamiji does that. See, the mind, I'm telling you, is the most difficult thing to understand. Very difficult to understand. One lady came to me and said, Swamiji, I have a big problem. I said, what is it? Suddenly a thought comes and that thought gives sometimes a very negative information to me. I don't know where it comes from. And once or twice that negative thought that came, it became true. Okay, I said, all right. So I'm afraid of my thoughts. Because any thought that comes, I'm so afraid. Because this will become true. So Swami, you have to do something. What am I supposed to do? I said, I told her, just stop thinking then. Oh, what are you saying? Swamiji, is it as though it's in my hand? But whether should I think or not to think, it's not in my hand. So in that case, I said, whenever you even sense that a negativity is rising up, do something positive. Take japa. Think about the Lord. Nama japa. Swamiji, I do daily puja. Okay. So, but I asked her, you do daily puja, but how are you taking care of the mind? Puja may be done for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or fine. But when such thought comes, what do you do at that point? So that's exactly I'm asking you. I said, then in that case, when you are sensing that a thought is arising which is negative, instead of taking it seriously and brooding over it, you just get into chanting of the name of the Lord and say, if it has to happen according to Bhagavan's will, let it happen. So, I am not responsible. Don't take the guilt feeling in your heart. So then after some time she said, Swamiji, I have seen you. No, every problem is solved. By not seeing me, you are not getting get relieved from this. ये आपको करना है. Don't just स्वामी जी को मिला बस हो गया सब. ऐसा मत करो. You have to do it. Don't. And after some time, Swamiji, I want to see you again because I've had a problem. But seeing me, it doesn't go away. For you doing that work, prayatnena, only it will go away. Prayatnena eva nivaritam shakyate manachanchalatvam. The instability of the mind, etc., can go only by your own. So, prayatnena eva. So, this mind is aniyata swabhavatvat. It is unpredictable, changing. Manomaya Atma Navavati Vikaritvat Dehavat iti. It is Vikaritvat, it is changing like that of the body. Body is also changing constantly. And interesting thing is, the body when it changes, it doesn't take our permission. Does the body says, can I get old please? What is your opinion about it? Is there an opinion you have about body should get old or not? Nails should grow or not? Hair should grow or not? Is there an opinion from you? Is it your intention? Similarly, mind also will change. But that's what Krishna was asked no by Arjun. Chanchalam hi manak Krishna pramadi balavatridam tasyam nigraham manni vayoriva sudushkaram. Bhagavan says smilingly, yes, asamshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam. Yes, no doubt, it will be that, like that only. So, by the very nature, the mind is constantly subject to change, and therefore, Atma tat na bhavati, it cannot be. So, now, if you have said that the manaha is of the nature of kartru swabhava, and what about the intellect then? What is next? That is said in the verse number 7 here. Lina supto vapur bodhe vyapnuyat anakagraga chichayopeda dhirnatma Vijnanamaya Shabdabhag Lina Supto Vyapurbote Vapnuyad Anakagraga Chichayopeta Dhirnatma Vijnanamaya Shabdabhag. Vijnanamaya Shabdabhag, that which is known by the name Vijnanamaya Kosha, Lina, Supto Lina Bhavati. Supto, in the time of sleep, Lina Bhavati. Lina means subsidence. It subsides. It doesn't anymore engage in any activity. It doesn't think, it doesn't engage in any planning, none of those. It appears to be not fully functioning. Bodhe vyapnuyat. At the time when we are awake, it completely envelops or extends itself from where? Anaka agraga. From the nail onwards, tip of the fingers, nail, entire body is pervaded by the idea of I. At the time of sleep, even though body is there, but there is no pervasiveness of the idea of I. In the deep sleep state, there is no consciousness of the physical body lying down. When I am awake, I am touched somewhere, immediately I know. Any part of the body. But in the state of sleep, if a deep sleep I am talking about, not the lucid sleep. So, you may be going in a train which is you are not bothered. Or, you are very tired and the car, it's a beautiful car, no doubt, but it is lot of that jerky road, ups and down. But if you are really asleep, fast asleep, you will never know it. Also, I've seen, during that time when they are awake, the two husband and wife, they shouting at each other. After some time, they have nice lunch on each other's shoulders. Only after wake up, I slept on your shoulder. So until then, there is no feeling of the physical body. When wakes up, bodhe vapuhu vyapnuyat, the entire body, anaka, from the tip of the finger, agraga, anakagraga, dhi. And what is this dhi? What is this buddhi? Chichaya upeta dhi. Chitehe chaya chichaya. The reflection of consciousness. Chitehe, of the consciousness. Chaya, reflection. Or you can the shadow self. Chaya, if you want to, shadow self. But it's not shadow, then immediately brings the picture of darkness. But here it is not like that. Reflection of the, that's what it's called, what is it called? Chidabhasa, Abhas. Abhasade. Abhasade shines with the help of consciousness. So the buddhi is acting like consciousness, though it is a borrowed power. It behaves like consciousness. So that is the reason why people who do not accept the existence of the consciousness, but they go only up to the level of buddhi, and then they say buddhi is the nature, is the consciousness, and that is limited to only physical body. That is what most of the traditional Buddhists also believe in, and it is Shanika Matram. Temporarily only there, because as the objects arise, consciousness of that object also takes place. As the object goes away, consciousness of the objects also goes away. So consciousness is constantly, continuously moving. Kshanikam, Kshanikam. But whereas, only in Vedanta we say that buddhi is a chidabhasa, meaning the reflection of consciousness taking place in that which is called buddhi, but it is not the source of consciousness. Even the medical science, when they talk about brain, the brain no doubt is most powerful instrument in our body, no doubt, which all that information which is, I don't know how it is able to store and access, etc. It is unbelievable. The amount of information that it can store and how it quickly accesses the information and sends the signal, receives the signal, and all that is happening there. It is an amazing instrument that we have, which we take it for granted. But brain is not equal to intellect. It is not a physical thing. It is the consciousness empowering the particular way of thinking or the thought process. So there was chichaya, that's why it is given there, like that. Chichaya upeda. But in the state of sleep, it is not that chaya. What happens to that reflection of consciousness? Does it disappear? No, the instrument which is reflecting is no more doing the function of reflection. So if let us say that if there is a mirror onto which the light is projected or light is reflected in the mirror, obviously the reflection takes place. But when you put a cloth over it, cloth over that mirror, then what happens? Obviously, then there is no reflection there. Not that the source light is absent. Source light is still there. But the ability to reflect has been, for temporarily, it is suspended. Once you remove the blanket again or the cloth again, start again. So that is the state of Sushupti. Ya chichaya ubeda di chidabhasa yukta buddhihi suptau sushuptikale lina vilina sati. That is tamo vibhutaha sukharupamedi sushuptikale sakale viline. Kaivalya Upanishad. So at the time of sleep, it is being covered as though by the tamas. So Leena, Vilina, Sati, Bodhe, Jagarana Kale, at the time of waking up, Anagagraha, until from the when you have said from onward. So Anaka, from the fingertip onward, Agraga, from the top of that, from the tip of the finger onward, Naka praparyantam sarvatmana Vartamana Sati Vabuhu Shariram Vyapniyat. Entire body has been pervaded. Sankyapya Vartate Sa Vijnanamaya Shabdabhag. That which is known as Vijnanamaya Shabdena Uchyamana. That which is referred as Vijnanamaya. Aso api Atma Nabhavati. This also cannot be the self. Why? Vilayadi avastavatvat, because it is also subject to disappearance in sleep. So that is also anitya rupaha. It is also not of the nature of nityatvam. Gatadivat ityartha. Like that of the pot, etc., or also when broken, it goes back to the mud. So it is only have temporary existence. Now, so buddhi or vijnanamaya kosha is also not the self. So there is an objection here. Nanu mano buddhyoho antakaranatva visheshat manomaya vijnanamaya rupena koshadvaya kalpana anupapanna iti ashankya. So when you say that there is one called Manomaya Kosha, another is called Vijnanamaya Kosha, but both of them are none other than Antakaranas. Why do you distinguish between Manomaya and Vijnanamaya? In what way? Kartrutva Karanatvabhyam Beda Sadbhavat Ghatate Eva Manomayatvadi Bedaha Ityaha. So one is called Karta, another is called Karana. Karta and Karana. The doer and as well as the agent of the doer. Agent of action. The actor and the agent of action. This way they are two. So that is explained in the next verse, verse number 8 here. Kartrutva Karanatvabhyam Vikriyetantarindriyam Vijnana Manasi Antar Bahishchaite Parasparam Kartrutva Karanatvabhyam Vikriyetantarindriyam Vijnana Manasi Antar Bahishchaite Parasparam. Antarindriyam. Antarindriyam, very, this is singular only here. Ekavachana. Antarindriyam. What is this Antarindriyam? Vikriyeta. Kartrutva Karanatvabhyam Vikriyeta. It is acting as both Kartrutva and Karana. Karanatva. The agent and Kartru. And the Karana. The action or the instrument of the action. Vikriyeta. They function one only. Antarindriyam ekam Kartrutva Karanadvabhyam Vikriyeta. And which is divided as Vijnana Manasi. Vijnanam cha Manascha idi Vijnana Manasi. Dvandva samas here, Vijnana Manasi. The intellectual sheath and mental sheath. Antar Bahihi. Antar inner, Bahihi outside. Inner world and outer world. ete parasparam, and therefore they are treated as two. Outside it is functioning and inside also it's functioning. So it is taken as two for the very fact that it is operating at two levels. So Gurudev used to say, mind is like a receptionist. So the receptionist receives the visitors, right? So she sits outside, and then anybody who comes to say, I want to have an appointment, I want to do this, I need some. So all those various phone calls it attends, and she attends, and then answers people who come there to ask any simple queries. And all that. Deliveries it takes, mail delivery and all that. But any decision that has to be taken, these receptionists won't do it. So she will say, let me check with the manager. She calls another line. Here is a person standing in front of me, right in front of my face. And he wants to know, he wants to have an appointment with you. Are you available tomorrow? And accordingly, the manager would say, no, I'm available or I'm not available. So the receptionist will say, oh, no, he's not available. So it is, the mind is only a receiving agent and also answering agent. But who is the decision maker? The one who is within. Right? So buddhi is considered as the decider. Nischayatmika buddhihi. And mind is what? Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha. Mind is of the nature of oscillation, indecisiveness, unclear, unsure, confused many times. And some people live in that condition only all the time. Anytime, not sure. Always. The clarity is not there in their face. Anything that you ask them, there is some vagueness about it. So that shows that Manomaya Kosha is active, Vijnanamaya Kosha is taken off. It's not available. And there are other people who are too strong about everything. They will not listen to anybody. That is another extreme. I know. Sure. But listen to, why should I listen to? I know it. That is also wrong. There is no readiness to take any input from anybody. Then, so these two are there, as even the commentator here says, the buddhi is static and the mind is dynamic. Static should not be taken as useless. Static here means it doesn't change, move easily. See, it is no doubt one only, mind and intellect, but acting differently, functioning differently. So, mind is collecting the sense data that has to go out and presenting it to the intellect to make a decision. The intellect simply sits in one place and makes a judgment, should we do or not, based upon the input received. See, when we have emotions and feelings, etc., you can see the expression, right? Somebody is angry, somebody is agitated, somebody is sad. The face clearly shows most of the time. But decision cannot be seen. What decision I have taken, you cannot see it from my face. If I am angry, which is an expression, you can see. If I am happy, you can see. But intellectual judgments cannot be perceived because it is not directly in touch with the senses. Mind is in constant touch with the senses, or senses are in close contact with the mind. Therefore, whatever mind feels, emotes, the senses can immediately express them. But intellect is further deep and it cannot be that easily known. If what about decisions and opinions, eyes and ears, nose, tongue cannot express those things. So it is standing as a judging authority. Based upon the pros and cons. Even a judge in a court, he cannot take a decision upon just how the witness appears to be. Witness appears to be so beautiful, therefore whatever she says is right. You cannot go that way. So he has to take into consideration, okay, this is what he or she says. Let us look at the other party, what he says. Then look at it, which is more closer to the truth. That is the buddhi. So this way, even though our antakarana is one only, it has two different functions. All right. But however, this antakarana is also na atma bhavati. All right. So annamaya kosha is not, pranamaya kosha is not, manomaya kosha is not, vijnanamaya kosha is also not. Oh, the next one, I think this must be the one, anandamaya kosha. But that is also explained here. What is that? Anandamaya kosha. Kachidantarmukha vrittihi ananda pradibhimbabhak punyabhoge bhogashanto nidra rupena liyate kachidantarmukha vrittihi ananda pradibhimbabhak punyabhoge bhogashanto nidra rupena liyate. So this next one is very interesting. Kachit antarmukha vrittihi. So now he said, there is some position of this function where sometime it is kachit antarmukha. Antarmukha vrittihi. It goes inward. See, buddhi making judgment based upon what the mind brings in through the senses, whatever is received, mind brings it in, and the buddhi makes a decision about right and wrong, good and bad, to do or not to do, all that. But at some time, that buddhi turns inside. Kachir antarmukha vrittihi ananda pradibhimbabhag. It catches the reflection of the bliss. So what is that catching the reflection of bliss? When does it happen? Punya bhoge. At the time of enjoying the result of punya. Punya bhoge. So that is why in our tradition what we say, anything you come to experience as joy is a product of a good action performed by you. So bliss also, joy also that you get out of objects is also because of some kind of a punya that has been the cause for this. And there are three vrittis that take place, as you all know: priya vritti, moda vritti, pramoda vritti. At the sight of a thing which you like, desire or love, that is one vritti. Upon owning it is moda vritti. Upon experiencing it is pramoda vritti. Our Guruji used to give the example. Nowadays you get a table lamp, you touch once, it will little light. Second time, little brighter. Third time, bright. Priya, moda, pramoda. The light is the same, but only little it comes priya vritti. The second level, moda vritti. Third, pramod. So when we experience the objects of the world which we desire to experience, and then when they are when you see them, when you know that it is in the proximity, then priya. Then when you know that it is your own, nobody can take it away from you, more. And when you really experience that, pramod. In this way, the interesting thing is, objects appearing to be giving you the joy, but actually it's just a reflection of consciousness only. That's why it is referred as that what punya bhoga, in none of them, all of them are ananda pradibimba. It's a reflection. But bhoga shanto, when that bhoga is ended, then what happens? Nitra rupena diyate. When that bhoga experience is over, end of that enjoyment, then there is a deep sleep. So that is what is referred as Anandamaya Kosha. Now, in the footnote that is given in this book by Ramakrishna Mission, there he talks about these karma, karana, and karta, karana, and bhokta. So simply, we'll see this here. Let us call this the inner entity. Let us call it as an entity, for it is sometimes an organ of action, karana. Sometimes an agent, karta, and sometimes it is bhokta, enjoyer. It's one and the same awareness, because manaha and buddhi are not independent of Atman. It is not another entity. Mind is not another entity and buddhi is not another entity. It is the consciousness itself is functioning at different levels. Let us understand it this way. So, therefore, then when of which the function is to colligate sense data and to present them to what we call it a buddhi, the one which presents is known as mind. The one who presents the data, information, which we saw just now. And it turns outward to receive impressions from the external organ. And inwardly, that same awareness decides whether they are right or wrong, logical or otherwise, moral or immoral. This is what is known as buddhi, nischayatmika, that which it determines, decides. When it receives the sense data, received by the manas, and it is deciding on this, what to do with that particular information that is available. Okay. When it wills further, action is again functions as the outward action. It is all buddhi is doing. And it directs itself within. It catches the reflection of the chit, the consciousness. This reflection is of the name of Ananda. Same as Ananda, when all doing and willing ceases. It becomes a passive enjoyer of the reflected bliss, Ananda Bhug, at the end of which it slips into deep sleep. So these are the three vrittis of the consciousness. The peculiarity of this consciousness in all these conditions, as it acts as a whole, the whole of it remains as such. It doesn't change, even though it is functioning as three vrittis: observer, doer, and enjoyer, or the observed, the act, or enjoyed. It is always said to be like in a motion as a mind, as an intellect, but That's only nothing but the various impressions, vasanas that are there, that are being, that's playing the role of all this. Meaning, it is only creates that illusion of experiences. But as the Atman, it is always above all the various activities that are going on there. As a mind, as a buddhi, as a enjoyer in the in the deep sleep. So, therefore, even though there cannot be three different things, or especially when it comes to mind and buddhi, they are not two. And the same buddhi, when it turned inward without experiencing whatever is reported by the mind, but it is on its own, what it experiences as the very reflection of consciousness as Ananda, in all these three conditions, awareness undergoes no change. But then, if that is the case, is it not that being the closest proximity of the self, Anandamaya Kosha is none? Why not we consider Anandamaya Kosha as the self? Because by definition, what is the nature of the self? Sat Chit Anand. So, if that is the case, that Ananda is the nature of this Anandamaya Kosha, why not we consider that as the absolute self? That is also not right. Why? So we'll see in the text, we'll see the 10th verse, and then we'll see the explanation later. Kadachit katvato natma syadanandamayopyayam bimbabhuto ya anandaha Atma sau sarvada sthite. Kadachit katvato natma syadanandamayopyayam bimbabhuto ya anandaha Atma sau sarvada sthite. So this Anandamaya Kosha also cannot be considered as the self, because this Anandamaya is Kosha also is not continuously experienced by us. Kadachit katva. Kadachit means at some time. Kadachit katva means being of the presence of only some time. That's wonderful. Kadachit katva, of the nature of temporariness, impermanence. Na atma syat anandamayaha. Anandamayaha api ayam na atma. Even though it is appearing to be blissful, but it is not original. Bimba Buddha. It's only bimba. It's not the real bliss. But on the other hand, ya atma anandaha sarvada astau stitaha. Whereas the nature of the self is sadananda. Sadananda. So we had one person, one elderly person in Washington DC area. I think one of the attendees here is from Washington. He knows that. Very senior sevak, and who conducts a lot of classes, etc. His name is Sadanand in DC area and Chinmaya Mission. I used to tell him, you are sad and Anand at the same time. He used to want, he will introduce, always when he sees me, I am here, sad Anand, I am here. Swamiji, you only can call me a sad and Anand at the same time. Sadhan, when you write in English, you know what it is. Sad Anand. Sad Anand. That Anandamaya Kosha is also not always there. No, here are you saying we can go to sleep and then we'll find it always there? You cannot. You cannot continuously sleep. You will be woken up by a Prakriti. So that which is also not always there, Kadachitkatva, Kadachitkatvatah, because of being temporary nature, na atma syat. It is not the self. Why? Anandamaya api ayam. Even though it is of the nature of bliss, it is appear to be nature of bliss, but it is bimbabhutah. It's only a reflection. Ya ananda atma, so sarvada sthite. That which is the karan, very source of bliss is sada. We'll see that more in the next class. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions?
Hey, Om Swamiji, I have a question.
Ah.
In Sushupti